When you hear the word fairy, chances are you picture something highly specific, a tiny, harmless sprite with gossamer wings flitting around a garden. We pass these images down as bedtime stories. But this comfortable, miniature version of the fairy is a recent cultural invention, a severe downgrade from the entities recorded by early human civilizations. The original fae of European and Celtic mythology looked nothing like insects. The sovereigns of ancient folklore were towering, entirely wingless humanoids. Their biology was striking. They possessed the exact anatomical proportions of tall, elegant humans, moving with a supernatural grace. Their most distinct physical trait was an ethereal, natural bioluminescence, giving their skin a faint, continuous glow in the shadows. Emerging from a mysterious, parallel realm, these entities commanded the dense, mist-shrouded glens. They didn't hide in flowers. They operated as the absolute, unquestioned rulers of the ancient woods. To understand the true nature of the fae, we must look past modern bedtime stories to the earliest surviving historical records, where these beings were documented as a terrifying physical reality. The most detailed historical evidence comes to us from 12th and 13th century French and English archives. In these texts, heavily armored knights venture deep into uncharted timberlands and document their run-ins with a parallel society. Military men frequently reported crossing paths with what they called fairy queens. These texts explicitly describe beautiful women dressed in flowing white silk, riding upon massive white horses with silver bells braided tightly into their manes. The witnesses were remarkably consistent about physical scale. They explicitly noted that these glowing women lacked wings completely and towered over full-grown, armor-clad men. This chart shows their psychological magic. The fae placed travelers into deep trances, into hidden realms governed by extreme time dilation. The math was devastating. A few short days to a captive knight across the Vale equated to decades passing in the human world. These medieval accounts portray the fae not as mythological animals, but as a structured society, bound by complex laws, a parallel world capable of commanding absolute submission from anyone who crossed its borders. We see their capacity for raw destruction in one of the oldest and most documented folklore accounts, the Scottish border ballad of Tam Lin. In this legend, a young human man named Tam Lin is abducted by the fairy queen. To break his magical bondage, a brave woman named Margaret ventures into the woods to physically pull him back into our world. The fairy queen doesn't let her captives go easily. To stop Margaret, the queen weaponizes her environment, initiating a violent sequence of physical transfiguration magic. Urgent tone, Margaret holds on to Tam Lin as his body violently warps and stretches, rapidly morphing into a terrifying feral beast. The escalation reaches a terrifying peak. His flesh suddenly ignites, his entire physical body transforming into a cluster of searing, burning coals. Margaret holds on and eventually wins him back, but the ballad serves as a clear warning. The ancient fae were apex predators, capable of summoning unyielding elemental forces to protect their realm, which leaves us with a massive historical contradiction. If the original entities were this dominant and lethal, why do we now picture them as harmless garden sprites? The change occurred during the late 19th century. Influenced by theatrical works like Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, Victorian society began a systematic dismantling of the ancient myth. Writers and painters actively revised the narrative. By literally shrinking them down on the canvas and adding delicate insect wings, artists completely stripped the fae of their threatening stature. This artistic trend served as a psychological defense mechanism. Shrinking the fairy was humanity's way of conceptually taming the dark, terrifying unknown of the ancient European forests. But that cultural revisionism didn't stop the investigation. By the 20th century, a new wave of independent researchers realized the old ballads were no longer enough, shifting their efforts toward modern technology. They ventured back into the mist-shrouded glens, armed with field cameras and magnetic tape. They aimed to capture definitive photographic and audio proof of these parallel beings. Today, we happily embrace the comfortable illusion of the tiny winged fairy, but the historical record is waiting right beneath the surface. forcing us to wonder exactly what majestic, terrifying entities might still rule the deep woods. Deep in the dark, foggy woodlands of the United Kingdom, investigators are currently establishing a surveillance grid of hypersensitive trail cameras and motion sensors. These dedicated professionals are hunting for fairies. Despite our reliance on 4K digital verification and satellite mapping, specialized teams continue to deploy military-grade sensors to track an elusive folkloric entity. As our technology has advanced, the methods for pursuing these mythological figures have escalated to match the digital precision of the 21st century. This modern obsession has its roots in the small English village of Cottingley in 1917. Two young girls produced photographs of small winged women dancing near a creek, images created by pinning cardboard cutouts from a children's book to the local flora. These images convinced prominent intellectual figures like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle that a hidden biological species had finally been caught on film. Decades later, the girls admitted the figures were paper. By then, the specific image of the small winged humanoid had become the standard visual template for how the world imagined the Fae. This leaves a difficult question. How did a proven paper hoax evolve into a phenomenon that modern investigators still pursue with total conviction? At the ancient Avebury Stone Circle in Wiltshire, the modern hunt continues alongside the daily flow of tourists. Local researchers have compiled a library of reports from unconnected visitors who describe sudden, overwhelming encounters that defy their understanding of the natural world. Witnesses describe 8-inch-tall, luminous humanoids moving through the massive megaliths at speeds that challenge the human eye. Folklorists involved with the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast treat these accounts as authentic psychological data, documenting experiences that frequently mirror the descriptions popularized over a century ago. For these witnesses, the experience is a concrete, indisputable event that aligns perfectly with the post-Cottingley archetype of the winged fairy. In April 2026, the investigation moved from public sites into a dense, monitored paranormal grid in the Somerset woodlands. Investigators utilized a suite of infrared sensors and magnetic anomaly trackers to catch what the human eye might miss. Following a magnetic spike, a high-resolution camera captured a high-contrast image of a 10-inch, self-luminous humanoid clinging to a tree. This data shows translucent wing structures and humanoid limb proportions, cited by the team as evidence of a biological anomaly. Zoological experts immediately challenged this evidence, identifying the image as a digital artifact or a common moth caught in a long-exposure lens. This creates a persistent stalemate. As our sensors grow more sophisticated, the gap between scientific dismissal and the conviction of the observer only grows. Debating whether the Somerset image is a moth or a fairy overlooks the most consistent data point in the entire investigation: the person who saw it. This chart shows that while the quality of debunking evidence has risen for a century, the volume of human belief has remained steady. The myth survives by adapting its camouflage from paper cutouts in 1917 to digital sensor blips in 2026. Despite every piece of physical evidence being systematically dismantled by experts, the experience of the encounter persists across generations. Because the myth adapts so fluidly to our current technology, it functions as a psychological reality, a way for the human mind to process the profound awe found in the natural world. This psychological endurance allows us to project our need for mystery onto mundane natural anomalies, turning a moth or light flicker into a meaningful encounter. The enduring entity born from the 1917 hoax is the conviction of the witness, which survives long after the paper and digital evidence have been proven false. Whether they are biological anomalies or tricks of the mind, the modern fairy remains a living testament to humanity's deep, unbreakable connection to the natural world.